Hello everyone, and welcome to Nintex Technology Training. I'm Emily Slagle, Training Specialist here at Nintex. I've worked with Nintex products for several years, and some of you may know me from my time as a member of the support team. So now let's go ahead and jump over to my environment and I'll show you the LazyApproval feature in my leave request workflow. Okay, so here we are in my training environment, and I'm going to start off by opening up this leave request list that I created here. And as you can see, there's a few extra columns here that I created, and this is so when a request is submitted, the requester will be required to fill in a few extra fields, including leave type and start date, end date, and description. So when you click on a new item to submit the leave request, you'll see those fields here. And this is all data that we can use in our workflow. So going back to the list here, I'm going to click on the List tab, and then click on the Nintex Workflow button in the ribbon. And this brings us to the Nintex Workflow Designer. Since I've actually already built my leave request workflow, I'm going to click on the Open button in the ribbon here, and then select my workflow. So here you'll see my leave request workflow. And you can build this workflow yourself using the tutorials that I mentioned earlier, but I'll give you a quick overview just so you can see what it does. So first thing, I'm going to show you the workflow settings by clicking on the Settings button here in the ribbon. And as you can see under the Start options, I've configured the workflow to start automatically. And this is so the workflow will automatically start each time someone submits a new request. Alright, so going back to the workflow. So the first thing that we want to do in our workflow is send an email to the initiator letting them know that the request has been received. And to do that, we're going to use the Send an Email action. And I'm going to double click on it to open it. So first in the to line, we have this action configured to send the email to the workflow initiator. This way, it'll automatically send an email to whoever submitted the request each time. The subject and the body fields have some dynamic data in them, showing the information that was filled in for the request, such as the leave type and start date and end date, and this is done using the insert reference functionality. So the next thing that we want our workflow to do is notify the manager of the leave request and ask for their approval. To do this, we want to assign them a task, which is also where we configure the LazyApproval option. And in this case, we're using the Assign a Task action. And right now we have two options configured for this action. There is the Approved and Rejected options. So depending on which option the manager chooses for the task, approved or rejected, the workflow will go down that particular path. So if the task is approved, the actions that we added to the approved branch will run, and if it's rejected, it will run the actions in that branch. And for the rejected branch, we're sending an email to let the initiator of the request know that their leave request was declined. And for the approved branch, we have an email to let them know it was approved. So now we have a better idea of what this leave request workflow is doing. Let's take a look at the configuration for the Assign a Task action and the LazyApproval option. So I'm going to double click on the action so we can take a look at the configuration screen for the action. So the first thing that we have here is the participant, which typically you'd want to have set to the manager for a leave request workflow, but for this demo I'm going to send it to myself. And then next we have the task title, which you can call whatever you want, but I've chosen to include the initiator's display name so the manager can easily see who submitted the request. The description is the description that the initiator filled out in their request form. And I've also chosen to include a due date, which is looking at the start date for the requested leave time. I figured we'd want to have this task approved by the time they want to go on leave. So next we have the task outcome options, which by default are configured as you see here with approved and rejected. And you can also select this add outcome link here, and this is how you can add your own custom outcomes. And then here we have the LazyApproval option. All I need to do is check this box and LazyApproval will be enabled for this task. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and click Save so we can see it in action. So now I want to run my workflow, so I'm going to click on the Publish button here in the ribbon so I can publish it. And I'm calling it Leave Request. And again, it brings up the workflow options and all looks good, so I'm going to click on Publish. So now I go back to my leave request list, and I'm going to click on New Item so I can submit a new request. And then once I have my form filled out, I'm going to click Save, and that adds my request to the list. And now since I've configured my workflow to start automatically when new items are created, the workflow is going to go ahead and start. So I should be receiving an email letting me know that my request has been received. So let's go ahead and check my email. So as you can see here, the first action in my workflow has ran, sending me, the requester, an email letting me know that my request has been received. And since I'm also the manager in this case, I should be receiving the email, and there it is now. Perfect timing. And this is the email that the manager would receive, letting them know that a task requires their approval. And since LazyApproval is enabled, we see the text at the bottom, letting us know that we can reply to the email with our response. I'm going to click Reply, and then type Approved, because of course I'm going to approve my own leave request. So now I've sent off the email, and I let the workflow do the rest. I should be receiving the final email soon, letting me know that my request was approved. So here is the final email in my workflow, letting me know that my request was approved. This is the email action that I configured for the approved branch of the task outcome. So one final thing we can check here, we can go back to my site and go to the leave request list where I created the item, and I can click on the drop down here and select workflows. You'll see that the leave request workflow was completed, and then I can click on this link here to get some further details. Here you'll see the task that was created for my request, which was approved by the manager, and it shows that the task status is completed. So that's the LazyApproval feature in a leave request workflow. As you can see, it was really easy to set up and use. So that wraps up our overview of using LazyApproval in Nintex workflow for Office 365. LazyApproval can be helpful for speeding up your business processes that require task approvals. Try checking out the LazyApproval feature for yourself to see how it can work for you. Also, be sure to check out the Nintex community site and the Nintex online help for more information on how to manage and get the most out of our Nintex products. Thanks for watching.